I've talked about a good amount of girls' love series, from the sweet slow burn Adachi Tushimamura, to the oddly wholesome BDSM webtoon Sadistic Beauty Side Story, to the pseudo-incestuous romance that is Citrus and Citrus Plus. I know that's a wild start, but hear me out. With the wild catalog of girls' love series, most of which I have yet to mention in video format, it's safe to say I have a lot of experience in this particular genre. All of that is to say, through all the girls' love series I have read and am still reading, I haven't touched an anime, manga, manhwa, or a light novel that is as toxic as this series. Sequel to White Angels Have No Wings, written by Gado, White Angels Have No Rest is without a doubt a train wreck of a comic, and like a train wreck, no matter how ugly it got, I couldn't bring myself to turn away from it. Trigger warning for this series, there are all kinds of abuse in here. Physical, verbal, and psychological abuse, bullying, sexual assault, to the most egregious of them all, the R word. Be warned of this series because not only are those things I listed in it, but it's explicit. So do not read this series if what I listed is too triggering. Also, I'm going to say this because I feel like it needs to be said. I don't condone or advocate anything that goes on in this series. If you're taking any relationship cues from this comic, you will be reading your next Yuri manga, laying in a bunk bed, eating ramen noodles in a cold prison cell. With that being said, let's walk into the vat of toxicity that is White Angels Have No Rest. As I mentioned before, this is a sequel series. The prequel, White Angels Have No Wings, is set some years before the sequel and follows our two main characters in high school. And while that series still is pretty toxic, it pales to a sequel as it isn't as horrendous or explicit, but again, it's still bad. And while I think White Angels Have No Rest can sorta stand alone as its own series, I recommend reading the prequel first just to fully understand the history between all the characters in the cast. It's about 78 chapters, so it won't take you too long to read, but the art is definitely a downgrade. White Angels Have No Rest follows two women who have a lot of bad blood between each other. Yang Daye has a life most people would kill to have. She's beautiful, is the daughter of the president of a successful company, is loved by her family, and has a pretty and supportive girlfriend. With a life to dream for, there is only one thing that stops Yang from finding happiness: nightmares of her former bully, Baek Yeonwoo. Despite Yang's success, she has an itch that she can't scratch, a fire in her stomach that can't be extinguished, a burning desire for revenge. And when Yang crosses paths with Baek once again, a golden opportunity presents itself to enact her vengeance, a decision that will forever change both Yang and Baek's life permanently. The premise of the story seems simple enough. Girl A used to be bullied by Girl B. The effects of said abuse linger with Girl A even as a grown-up, so she sets out to get back at Girl B. Surely this story will end with Girl A putting a kick me sign on Girl B, someone will kick her, she won't know why, we will all laugh in unison, and Girl A will say,
"Yes, revenge is cool as hell."
Right? Well, I guess that is one way to get revenge. I probably wouldn't do it myself, but hey, new age. On a serious note though, this seemingly straightforward story becomes a lot more complicated when you review the background of our main characters, Yang and Baek. Now, I framed Girl A or Yang as the victim of bullying, which she was, but reading the prequel, you know that Yang wasn't innocent. Far from it actually. Yang used to be a bully herself, with her frequent target being a friend of Baek, which Baek paid in kind on more than one occasion. This is to say, there is deep resentment that resides in Yang, resentment that has lasted all the way to adulthood, which is why she obsessively wants revenge on Baek. As for Girl B, Baek, even though she didn't initiate the beef between her and Yang, and originally was just protecting her friend, she has done so much wrong that how things started is irrelevant. For Baek, weird enough, she doesn't reciprocate Yang's hatred despite their history. But when you're as sadistic as she is, it doesn't matter if she feels hatred or not. Beck enjoys using people as playthings, so when she had an excuse to torment Yang for bullying her friend, she took her for an absolute ride. These women are far too involved with each other for their ties to be severed with just a quick hit me sign act of vengeance. It's too deep and too complex, because as crazy as it sounds, this story isn't some thriller crime webtoon. It's a romance. Some people may ask, how does that happen? How could a story with those themes morph into any semblance of a romance? And the answer is toxic obsession. Just to give you an example, in the first 2 chapters, you see Yang get frustrated because of the stress of work. So she calls her girlfriend over to her apartment for relations, which is fine enough. Only that Yang's girlfriend pulls up wearing a white wig and I doubt she's cosplaying Storm. They proceed to have relations while Yang thinks about Beck and actively channels her frustrations into the bedroom with some aggressive holds, bite marks, and choking. And I think that scene right there sets the stage for the premise of the story by encapsulating the love-hate romance of Yang and Beck. As quoted from Kill la Kill's very own Nui Harume,
you know, you can't have love without hate. It's like, the deeper the hate, the deeper the love.
You see, in hate, there is passion. Passion that in this story flips itself into twisted love. And through a tug of war in where Yang and Beck's passion for each other lies, you get an extremely toxic romance filled with infidelity, manipulation, assault, blackmail, false imprisonment, and lots, and I mean a lot of nipples. And speaking of nipples, let's talk about a really sensitive subject. Y'all wasn't really fucking with that joke. Okay. All right. That was pretty bad. Let me start over. This series has uncomfortable subject matter, which isn't a problem in of itself. With everything, you need context and nuance, because execution is the most important element in how something is perceived, even more than the original concept. And this is where I am conflicted with White Angels Have No Rest. On one hand, I believe the explicit scenes are necessary for the exploration of the psyche of our cast. On the other hand, while no character's heinous actions are glorified in any way, they may be fetishized. This goes back to everything being explicit in this series. There are more sex scenes than you can count, with the consensual or healthy ones being less than the fingers on one of your hands. Essentially, these sex scenes portray the appropriate tone of malice, but the intent of scenes many times feels like it's meant to be tantalizing, which I think is an issue. If you want to show how messed up these characters are by use of assault, coercion, or any other form of sexual misconduct, that's one thing, but the scenes are too long and plentiful for me to believe that's the only purpose of said scenes. So we go back to the main point I made. I'm not mad at the story for just having sexual misconduct. I am, however, wary of its use when it seems like part of the reason it exists is because the author thinks of it as fat fodder. Up to this point, a lot of what I said about the series has been negative, I know, but despite everything I've said, I kinda like this series. It's a train wreck, an abysmal spectacle, but it's one that left me entertained through the whole way. What hooked me about this series was just how much more different it was than any other girls love series I was reading. For one, the casts are adults, which in the high school saturated genre of romance and by extension girls love is a rarity. Seriously, look at the most popular girls love anime: Citrus, Yuri, Bloom Into You, Happy Sugar Life, Akuma no Riddle, Sakura Trick, Adachi to Shimamura, all focused on high school girls or younger. Having an adult cast is refreshing and eliminates some tropes you always see in a high school setting, like culture festivals, sports festivals, fireworks, school plays, rooftop confessions, confessions behind the school, blushing while addressing the other by the first name, New Year's shrine visits, Kyoto field trips, getting the fever out of nowhere that your love interest has to nurse you back from. Secondly, it actually focuses on sex. And no, I'm not hyping this because it shows it in detail, but because it doesn't shy from it. You don't know how many romance series I've read where sex is completely ignored as a concept. A lot of the times, the most you'll get is the implication that sex occurred because of a time skip in which the pair have a biological child together. But you kinda can't do that with a lesbian couple, so again, often it's simply ignored, which I think is disingenuous in a love story, because how can you omit such a major component in relationships? That isn't to say that you have to show every pubic hair on the character's body, but I like sex to be addressed at the very least. And that was fulfilled in White Angels Have No Rest, even if I have my gripes with the way it goes about it. Lastly, the biggest hook in me staying with the series is none other than one, Baek Yeonwoo. Even from her design alone, she caught my eye quickly in her first full panel with this deranged predatory expression on her face. I'm a big fan of batshit insane characters, so that panel left an impression on me. And with Baek's pale skin and white hair, she is one of the few albino characters I've seen in any media, to be honest, which makes her even more memorable. As for Baek's character, yeah, she's definitely as crazy as she looks. A far cry from any other antagonist in the Girls Love series that you may be accustomed to, she is the embodiment of chaos, the engine that powers the depravity of this series, and simply put, there is never a dull moment with her. But of course, I won't get too specific with anything, you'll have to find that out for yourselves. As we transition to the end of this video, if I piqued your interest with the series, you can read it on many sites in which I won't mention or link in the comments for legal reasons, but it should be easy to find. This manhwa is 65 chapters including the epilogue, is finished, and as stated in the beginning, has a prequel series that I recommend reading for full context. Be warned of this manhwa again because it is not for the faint of heart, so adjust your expectations of it accordingly. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and check out some of my other videos I made talking about Girls Love series. I am Satsuki the Savage. I am out.
Life is just death, taking its time. Who gon' take it from my hand? Was lonely before friends. I'm holding my own hand and taking these bad shots, just hoping they go in. Everything folds in.